It's wild how much someone can change their face and still expect people to see the same person underneath. Meghan Markle has always been calculated about her image, but lately the changes are almost like a complete rewrite of who she is. The Meghan, who once proudly talked about her Markle nose, even thanking her dad for it in a heartfelt Father's Day post, is gone. Now her nose is sleeker, more lifted, the bridge smooth, the tip shortened. It's a whole different shape, and it's not just the nose. You can tell there's filler along her jaw, in her cheeks, even near the hairline, all carefully placed to pull everything upward. It's that signature motion people do in the mirror when they want to see how they look with everything lifted. Except hers stays that way because it's filled and sculpted. What makes it fascinating is the reasoning behind it. On the surface, sure, you could say it's just cosmetic upkeep, but dig a little deeper and it looks more like an intentional distancing from her roots. That old post to her father wasn't just about Father's Day, it was about identity. She tied her nose, her features to her dad, to a working class background, to a version of herself that wasn't polished into Hollywood nobility. Fast forward to now, and it feels like she's surgically erasing any reminder of that connection. It's not just a beauty tweak, it's an entire rebrand. The timing of these changes is almost as telling as the alterations themselves. Her public circle has shrunk to a tiny handful of people, and the ones still around seem more like PR allies than genuine friends. Her recent birthday is a perfect example. The setting, dinner at a Beverly Hills spot that's known but no longer the hottest ticket in town. Funky, an Italian restaurant with a decent rating and a Michelin guide mention, but not a Michelin star. The kind of place you'd expect an influencer to tag, not someone supposedly operating at the peak of Hollywood relevance. Even more awkward, she didn't land a table at the rooftop, the most coveted section of the place, which says a lot about her current pull. She posted about the night like it was a major event, thanking family for making it special. But when you look closely, who's actually there? Not her dad, not her mom. Doria, who by all accounts has distanced herself from Meghan's daily orbit. Not even Harry, who's mysteriously absent from both the dinner and any recent public moments with her. Instead, the pictures show her with a few select guests, the angles carefully chosen to block out others at the table. The whole thing feels curated, not in a glamorous way, but in a way that hides more than it reveals. And then there are the birthday messages she shared. They read less like genuine notes from friends and more like pre-approved PR scripts. Everyone hits the same beats, calling her fun, generous, magical, as if they were all given the same talking points. There's almost no personal touch, no inside jokes, no warmth that would convince you these are unfiltered sentiments. It's the kind of branding exercise you'd expect for a product launch, not a birthday. Which circles back to the bigger picture. Meghan's been replacing the personal with the performative for years, but the more her physical appearance changes, the more obvious the gap becomes between the image and the reality. Her face is smoother, sharper, more symmetrical than ever, but the life behind it feels smaller, less family, fewer real friends, and, judging by the details she chooses to share, maybe fewer people she actually trusts. The surgeries and fillers might give her the aristocratic angles she wants, but they can't fill the empty seats at the table. The changes to her nose are the most obvious, but they're far from the only work she's had done. Look closely, and you see the architecture of her face has been rebuilt in subtle layers. Cheek filler has created that high, unbroken line from her temples down toward the apples of her cheeks, erasing the natural hollows she used to have. Filler in the jawline has squared it off just enough to read as sharper in photos. And the skin along her lower face looks pulled without the telltale signs of a full facelift. Even her forehead has a fullness to it now. The kind you don't get from hydration alone. It's a carefully orchestrated combination, not the overfilled look that screams plastic surgery, but precise enough to change the way light hits her face entirely. This kind of transformation isn't just about beauty standards, it's about control. Every placement of filler, every adjustment to the nose or jaw shifts how people perceive you. She's building a version of herself that looks more refined, more upper crust, the sort of face you might expect to see in an aristocratic family portrait. And the thing about that look is that it doesn't happen naturally for someone from her background. it has to be manufactured. Her public outings have started to reflect this manufactured image too. The restaurant choice for her birthday may have been deliberate, but it backfired in its own way. Funky's reputation as a place to be seen is several seasons old, and while its pasta might still be good, the buzz has long moved elsewhere. The fact that the last celebrity sighting of note there was Kim Kardashian in October 2023 says a lot about how far behind the trend cycle it's fallen. Choosing it might have been meant to suggest exclusivity, but instead, it gave off the impression of chasing a scene that's already moved on. The optics of the guest list were just as telling. In a life supposedly filled with high-profile connections, the visible attendees were few, and the framing of the photos seemed intentional in keeping them vague. One image even blocked out a guest entirely with the angle of a candle, as if their presence wasn't meant to be part of the narrative. There's speculation about who some of these guests were. Marcus Anderson's name floats around, as does Abigail Spencer's, but the absence of her closest blood relatives and her husband stood out more than anyone who might have been there. And then there's the language of the birthday tributes. Abigail Spencer's message described her as champagne in human form, and a creature unlike any other. Phrases so stylized they feel more like ad copy than friendship. Another friend's note hit every PR bullet point, plugging her Netflix show's upcoming season, praising her generosity, affirming her as love and light, but saying nothing about actually spending time with her. It's all surface gloss, perfectly on brand, but empty of the kind of familiarity you'd expect between genuine friends. All of this fits into a pattern. The settings are curated, the company is limited, the words spoken about her seem rehearsed. It's the kind of life where the image matters more than the substance, where appearances, both physical and situational, are adjusted until they match the story you want to tell. The irony is that in trying so hard to sculpt this perfect, untouchable version of herself, she's made the gaps in her world even more noticeable. The sharper her jawline gets, the blurrier her real connections seem to become. The core question is whether these changes come from insecurity, strategy, or both. There's a certain desperation in constantly altering the outer shell, as if a more photogenic nose or a perfectly contoured jawline could rewrite the public's perception. It's the mindset of someone who believes acceptance is earned through appearance rather than authenticity. The irony is that physical perfection, or the pursuit of it, often highlights the very insecurities it's meant to hide. When every angle is calculated, every photo vetted, and every social moment staged, it creates a barrier between the person and the people they're trying to win over. Public figures who lean too hard into curation risk losing the messiness that makes them relatable. In her case, the polish has come at the expense of warmth, the absence of candid moments. A quick laugh caught off guard, a casual group photo without perfect lighting, makes it harder to connect with her as anything other than a brand. And a brand can be admired, even envied, but it's rarely loved. That missing element of love, the genuine kind that can't be bought or sculpted, seems to be what she's been chasing through these cosmetic evolutions. The lack of visible family ties fuels the perception of isolation. People can understand complicated relationships, even estrangements. But when the closest bonds appear severed without explanation, it leaves a void. Her father is publicly out of the picture. Her mother, once a constant presence, is nowhere to be seen. The children, who might have been the emotional centerpiece of any birthday celebration, are conspicuously absent from the festivities. Even her husband's presence is a question mark, reduced to a passing mention without a single shared image. In an age where even the most private celebrities offer glimpses of their inner circle, that kind of silence speaks loudly. For someone who once positioned herself as relatable and grounded, the shift toward exclusivity has been steep. The gatherings now seem less like celebrations and more like PR exercises. Guests include people with their own public brands to maintain, and the interactions read as mutually beneficial networking rather than genuine friendship. The restaurant choice, the carefully worded tributes, the precise camera angles, all are moves in a game where perception is everything. The cosmetic work fits neatly into this framework. By altering features linked to her family heritage, she's not just refining her look, She's editing the visual record of her origins.
Welcome back to the Victoria's
The Markle
Secret
nose her
Fashion.
father gave her was a tangible connection to her past, one she once celebrated openly. Its disappearance is symbolic of a broader erasure, a shedding of anything that doesn't align with the elite persona she's cultivating. This isn't unusual in high-profile circles, but the speed and extent of her transformation make it particularly striking. What's left is a version of her that feels caught between two worlds. She's sculpted herself to look like she belongs in aristocratic settings, yet the social capital that usually comes with that look seems just out of reach. The rooftop tables remain elusive, the A-list gatherings sparse. The admiration she appears to seek from certain circles is lukewarm at best, filtered through polite but distant compliments. It's a liminal space where the image says exclusive, but the reality hints at something more precarious. If the goal was to become untouchable, she succeeded, but perhaps in the wrong way. Untouchable in beauty, yes, but also untouchable in the sense that fewer and fewer people seem genuinely close to her. The edges of her life, like the edges of her face, have been sharpened, defined, perfected. Yet perfection can be cold, and in the pursuit of an image that leaves no room for flaws, she may have also left no room for the kind of connection that can't be staged.